Wednesday, May 1st, 2019, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I want to talk about global reserve currencies. And I say currencies in plural because it's not just the dollar that's a reserve currency, but other currencies as well. And I want to talk about the fact that reserves denominated in Chinese RMB or Chinese Yuan are growing according to central bankers. So I want to talk about that today. Of course, before that, I'll look at what the markets are doing. This morning, it's fairly early. It's just around 7:15 a.m. London. Yesterday, after the market closed, we had some results from Uphold. This is how Zero Hedge described the news. Apple surges on blockbuster guidance despite tumbling iPhone sales, China revenues. So the Q2 revenues were better than expected, 58 billion versus 57.49 billion, but they were down from 61.1 billion a year ago. But yeah, that has helped the overall market. This morning, the markets are a lot higher, the stock markets. Let's start with gold. Gold is down $4 in a quarter at $12.79. So we haven't really been moving anywhere. We've been in a range trading, I would say, scenario for the last few days prior to the Fed announcement later on today. FOMC meeting ends today. Spot silver, 1488, that's down 5 as well. So both precious metals are down about 1/3%. The stock market, yes, S&P and NASDAQ are at all-time highs. The Dow is quickly, I guess, approaching that all-time high. Right now, the Dow futures is up 121 or 0.5% higher. S&P is up 13, just under 0.5% higher at 29.57. NASDAQ 100 is up 60 or 0.75% at 78.40. What about the currencies? Well, the fiat currencies are pretty steady. The pound is quite firm, 130.43, up about 0.1%. It had a fairly good day yesterday, the pound. It was up over 100 pips, maybe like 0.2%. Euro is at 112.18, unchanged. Dollar is up slightly against the yen, but not much, 111.50, and unchanged against the Chinese yuan, 673.50. Crude oil. Well, the WTI crude is down 0.86% or about 55 cents at 63.30. And Brent is down 0.6% at 71.53. Bond markets have been very quiet this week so far, but I would think that we could see a little bit of volatility later on today. I think the Fed announcement is around 2 p.m. New York time, 7 p.m. London. There'll be a press conference as well. The 10-year yield is still around 2.5%. The 3-month to 7-year spread is still around minus 4 basis points. So it's still inverted, the curve. So yeah, it's strange because we always say that the dollar is the global reserve currency. But that's not technically correct. It's the major reserve currency because there are other currencies which central banks around the world, other sovereign countries hold as reserves, not just the dollar. So I saw an article in the FT a couple of days ago, and I told you yesterday, I think in my video, that I bought the FT. So here it is, and it's on page 6. It says Brexit casts doubt on use of sterling as global reserve currency. First, I thought I was going to, how can I say, focus on sterling and Brexit, but Then I saw towards the end that there's a comment here that's quite interesting, seeing that the dollar is the major reserve currency. And we know that China, I don't think, well, we know that China's trying to become more important in terms of monetary affairs. Of course, the Chinese currency is not fully convertible yet, so it'll be difficult for the Yuan or renminbi to become a major reserve currency. But we're seeing that China is doing a lot of bilateral deals with other countries like Russia, Venezuela, Iran, to trade in renminbi. Turkey maybe as well. But interesting here in this article, I'll go over through it a bit also about the pounds. Yeah, I think in terms of the pounds, I don't think it's just Brexit that's going to weaken the pound and make it less popular with foreign investors or sovereign investors, central banking reserves. I think it's the fact as well that the UK has huge debts, and it's going to keep debasing the currency, and it's going to make it less attractive for other central banks to hold it. That's part of the equation as well. It's not just Brexit. Brexit might accelerate that process. So what's this all about? Well, it's a survey they've done of money managers at central banks. Central banks have money managers as well. So it says Brexit is likely to threaten the pound's status as a global reserve currency, according to a survey of central bank money managers who say Britain's departure from the EU will alter their views on sterling. And it goes on to say, the pound's history as one of the most important global currencies has meant central banks have long held assets denominated in pounds that can be sold quickly to help curb swings in their own currency's exchange rates. But a poll of central banking publications, a trade journal, suggests Brexit could endanger its status, with 3/4 of reserve managers predicting that central banks will alter and in all likelihood cut their sterling holdings. So by cutting sterling holdings, of course, you cut the demand for the currency. And that's the same thing that could happen to the dollar in relation to other currencies, especially the Chinese currency, the RMB. Less people need to hold dollars, the less valuable it will become, the more difficult, it will be for the U.S. to have that exorbitant privilege of printing its own money and buying anything they want around the world. It's going to be more and more difficult, like it has been for the UK. This article says that the UK has held the major reserve status up until the middle of the 20th century. So there you go. It's changed relatively quickly for the UK, I would say. And it could do the same thing for the US. And it's weird because I see a lot of, anti-Chinese bias. I saw the other day there's an interview with Steve Bannon on, I think it was CNBC or MSNBC, and he was really bashing China, saying how the U.S. needs to combat China, that they're a threat. I think China's not really a physical or military threat, is more of an economic threat, because we got 1.4 billion people and an economy that has transformed in the last 40 years. And I think China's resurgence as a world power is only going to speed up. I think a lot of people are kind of not deluded, but I think their forecasts are a little bit off the mark. For example, Jamie Dimon last year, about a year ago, said China's yuan may rival dollar's role in 20 years. I would sell 20 years in market parlance. When someone makes a comment like that and you think it's too long, you go, I'll sell 20 years. What's made me think about, China and the threat as an economic and monetary power to the US is the comment here towards the end. And it says, assets denominated in renminbi and emerging market bonds are becoming more popular, according to the poll compiled in February and March. So there you go. How do you protect yourself? Especially in the UK, I guess. I think, this process is going to continue to accelerate. The UK will not be as an important reserve currency going forward. I think China and the RMB or Yuan, whatever you want to call it. I know there's a difference between the two, but I won't get too technical here. I think China has everything to gain in terms of becoming more popular as a reserve currency. And the dollar has everything to lose. Once you get to the top, the only way is down, and I think that's been happening for the dollar. There are symptoms that the U.S. leadership is concerned about this. All the interference abroad, all the scaremongering about China, Russia, I think they are concerned, even though Jamie Dimon thinks it's going to take another 20 years for the yuan to rival the dollar. I think it's going to be a lot less than 20 years. Of course, the launch of the Petro Yuan contract just over a year ago is very important as well. What's happening in Venezuela right now is very important. It looks like there's been a coup attempt there. I see a headline this morning on Bloomberg. It says Trump's bet on Guaido is tested as Maduro remains in Caracas. So it's all heating up there. And I think that's all to do about the petrodollar, because the U.S. wants control of Venezuela to make sure that Venezuela sells its oil in dollars and doesn't deal with China or Russia in their own currencies. So global reserve currencies, there's a battle for, for that status right now, in my opinion. I know China is very far behind, but they've only got one way to go, and that's up, and the U.S. is down. In the U.S. as well, how do you protect yourself? Well, you try to wean yourself out of dollars as much as possible. You try to have exposure to precious metals, physical, gold and silver. Other currencies, other fiat currencies, I wouldn't recommend it, because all fiat currencies are sinking, as I've said in the past. The currencies that have the best track record over millennia are precious metals. What about cryptocurrencies? Yes, they're much more speculative though. Bitcoin has only been around for 10 years. So you got to keep that in mind. But I think I would rather have Bitcoin than dollars or British pounds. But ultimately, I think the best insurance is gold and also silver or precious metals. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Make sure you hit the little notification bell above to be notified of my new videos. Share this video far and wide if you think other people would enjoy this content. You can also follow me on Twitter, Steemit, and on DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.